Welcome, everybody. People are going to be rolling in during it as well. This will be available, like I was saying earlier, on YouTube after the fact. So if you're watching this from the recording, welcome. My name is Ricky Cecchini, I'm VP of Product here at CloudRadial. Today, I am very lucky to be joined not by who we originally had slated, but we're going to go a step up. We got the CEO of Crewhu, Steven Spiegel, here with me. And
Thank you. I don't think it's a step up though, but because Cadoo's amazing.
I feel like Cadoo's good, and he put together the integration very quickly. So shout out to him, even though he's not on here. But I do always like getting like when the C-levels show up to the call. I always feel like nice, we did good. So
Okay.
I want to start off by just asking a general question. I'm going to go into CloudRadial in a bit, but obviously since you're here, what exactly is Crewhu's purpose? You are the founder. Where to come from? Like why is it what it is?
It's a bit of a long story, and I'll try to give the abridged version. You know the franchise Cold Stone Creamery.
I do, right? I'm an ice cream man.
Okay, very good. So, way back when in the early 2000s, I brought that brand to South Florida, and had the rights to build out there, and we built our first store. We had 15 employees. Ultimately, we built many more stores. I had over 100 employees. I had 100% turnover. Our same store sales started to decline. Using their voice of the customer system, which is their customer satisfaction, or as we know it, CSAT system, I was getting one complaint per store per month. So it definitely wasn't enough feedback. And I was basically pulling out my hair going, this is just not fun. Like I was excited in the beginning, and now I find myself frustrated and not knowing really what to do. So I started to think about, how can I collect more feedback, and why do I have such a high turnover? And I dug down into it, and I realized that the managers at the store level were coming at the employees only with things that were going wrong, right? And CSAT is really great for finding things that are going wrong, but I wanted a way to find things that were going right. So we created this trigger to make it very easy to get feedback, right? And before, it took about 20 clicks to give a piece of feedback. So you had to be really, really pissed off to give feedback, right? We changed that. And instead of getting one negative piece of feedback per month, we were getting 100 pieces of feedback, right? 95 of them being amazing feedbacks, 5 of them being negative, right? So now we're going to the crew and we're celebrating with all the positive feedback, right? And the culture is now changing because we're totally transparent. We're talking about the positive stuff, and they're okay receiving the feedback on the negative stuff because I call it the bank account, right? The relationship bank account. You praise and praise and praise as much as you can. Try to find as many opportunities to do that. And then when something goes wrong, they don't feel that they have to protect themselves because they're not only getting, negative feedback back, but they're getting both positive and negative. Keep that bank account full. And that's what we did. And what happened was our turnover went from over 100% to 40%, which is incredible for that industry. And our same store sales started to trend not only positive, but a positive 9% per year over the next few years. And it was great. And then, of course, I went to market and I tried to sell it to everybody else in the business. I was friends with the executive level people at Cold Stone. I just couldn't sell it. And we were about ready to say, forget this. We're just going to go back to running the business the way we're running it because it's working. And then we found some MSPs, or MSPs found us organically and started to use it. I didn't know what an MSP was, by the way, at that time. So I called them up and I asked them, what's an MSP? And I learned it was a managed service provider. And this is back in 2015. And they were part of a peer group called True Methods, run by Gary Peak. And you know who Gary is?
Yeah. Seen Gary a bunch.
Yeah, he's a rock star, and I'm lucky to have met him all those years ago. And I asked him, these guys love this. Could I go out and speak to your peer group, about 40 strong? He goes, you could sponsor it. I go, I'm running out of money, Gary. I don't have the money for it. And he told me, he goes, hey, listen, sponsor an evening out and take care of the bar tab, right? And at that time, I had no idea how much, people who work for MSPs or owners like to drink.
Right. Surprise.
Yeah. So the bar tab was high, but we ended up getting a couple of dozen clients out of that. And that's when we entered into the MSP space, and we haven't looked back. We signed an in-band agreement with ConnectWise in that December. And in that January, we went to market. So January 2016, and we haven't looked back since.
Wow. So it's been a long time coming, and that's funny that Cold Stone wouldn't go back and do that. I know it's not a Cold Stone webinar, but I would wonder, it's like, I figure that would be something they would want to pick up, but whatever.
It wasn't the corporate headquarters. They wanted to do it. Right. They did not have the marketing funds to fund it. So they gave me carte blanche access to all their market meetings around the country. And it was up to the franchisees to do it. And a handful signed up, but we thought everybody was going to sign up for the deal we were giving. And it just didn't happen. And we got lucky enough where the managed service provider industry understood the value of this. And with our integrations into the PSAs and all the other MSP products, it became a home run for us and for our customers.
Yeah, it makes sense. And honestly, guys, during this webinar, we're talking about the concept of a half-baked customer satisfaction. I want to talk about what that is. I want to kind of discuss whether, what are the telling signs of if you're doing that. They're actually pretty easy to spot. We're guilty of doing it ourselves internally, and I'll talk about that. But for us, for CloudRadial, in a similar fashion, these are some of my favorite webinars to give, host, and to be a part of, just because realistically, CloudRadial, I'll go through this in a sec, client portal, customer-facing tool is really the same thing, right? Fundamentally, we're just looking after trying to make sure that the customers are happy, they're heard, they're interacting. And as we'll talk about in a second, and Stephen, I'm sure, has a lot of stuff to say on it, that concept of engaging even the internal teams and making sure that it's not just negativity, it's not just this, bearing down and kind of punishment, has a lot to do with how this is perceived. And CloudRadial originally started off as a straight up ticketing portal, which was received very mediocrely, because what's special about that, right? There's a billion of those. And I think eventually what we realized, and this is kind of the vision of our CEO, Jeff Ferris, is that over time, it's not just about a single aspect. And again, it's kind of a core theme of the half-baked concept. It's not just about a smiley face. It's not just about a ticket. It's not just about a report. It's how you thread all that stuff together and make that a genuine customer experience. And if you understand what each component does in that customer experience, then you're in a much better spot. So let me go through and I'll do my quick spiel, and then I'll turn it over to some of the more interesting stuff. So if you have not heard of CloudRadial, what is it? What are we? And what is our logo? Got a bunch of splotches. CloudRadial is a CSA, customer service automation platform. Realistically, the fastest way to understand that is you got a PSA, right? PSA is pretty important, right? Your standards out there, you got Kaseya and ConnectWise and Autotask and tons more, Halo and whatnot. But the concept there is that you're kind of using that as your operational base to run the technical part of the MSP, right? That's where you do your tickets. That's where you do your integrations with a bunch of other tools, but that's your home base technically. The concept of a CSA is you're doing all the stuff for the customer. So where's your home base for the customer, right? Where do you integrate all these different aspects of customer engagement, right? From CSAT to ticket views to reporting to QBRs. Is that easy to access for a normal person, right? And I'm not talking about going to 15, 20, 30 different portals or handing them stacks of papers. Getting that in one platform the same way you have a PSA is what we do. And that's kind of the concept of a cohesive customer experience. I will not be doing a demo of CloudRadial. That is not the point of this webinar. So hopefully if you've seen it, it looks something like this. This is an example of a home page, but this is to give you a visual to understand kind of like how in one view, right? A customer could get stuff from those tickets to reports to QBR stuff, again, making it really easy. So let's get to the actual interesting part of this webinar, which is what exactly is a half-baked CSAT? What is the difference between having, again, a couple smiley faces and asking people and versus having that be a greater strategy, right? With gamification and with positives. And before I give my take on it, I'd like to know, for you, Stephen, what did you find when you were building it out? Really, what were the main things that you realized that like you need and you added to it besides just that capturing of that feedback?
Well, I would say you need a closed loop process. Just collecting feedback is not enough. It could also be damaging if you're getting feedback and not acting on it, right? So you need a notification system, whether it's a notification via email, via app, or via your communication system like an MS Teams or Slack. Most importantly, I believe you want to be able to highlight the good stuff as well as the bad, to be able to celebrate the positives with the team, as well as learn from the negatives, right? So having a way to trigger recognition and rewards. I think the final piece is the analytics. You want to find out, what's going on over time. You want to analyze what people are saying, but you also want to analyze what people aren't saying. You could find out a lot from the no feedback. You could find out a lot by what they're not saying. Using some of our analytics, for example, you could have a 99% CSAT because when they are answering, it's positive, but you could find out what's not being said, such as response time. And a lot of our customers see that and they know just because they have a 99% CSAT doesn't mean work's not done. If they could focus or improve that response time, for example, they're going to focus on that, because the number one reason why customers actually leave MSPs is specifically because of response time. And that's what a lot of people sell against and go, how's your response time with your current MSP? We could help you.
Is that something that in general, CSAT, like you were saying, it's part of capturing those analytics. I mean, internally, and this is something I want to talk about as a general concept as well. Is it more for you? Do you see it as being external for the customer or being primarily internally, or is there like a healthy mix between the two? Like, who is CSAT really for in that sense?
Well, the CSAT's for the relationship you have with your customers, and it's also a vehicle to motivate your team to focus on the right metrics that matter. CSAT is the trailing metric. Right? If you heard about the concepts of leading metrics and trailing metrics are the result of all of your work, right? So if you have a high CSAT score, a high conversion rate, you're doing a lot on your leading metrics. Leading metrics could be the number of tickets that are closed per day per tech, could be the response time, could be the resolution time, could be the number of tickets that are escalated. The list goes on, but you work on all those things and the CSAT percent and the NPS score will go up.
I wanted to talk about NPS, actually. I know it's not necessarily the focus of it, but like, what is NPS? I mean, I believe the term is Net Promoter Score, pretty positive.
Yeah. Sorry. I hate when people use acronyms, and I just use one. NPS is Net Promoter Score, and you have CSAT, which stands for Customer Satisfaction. What we believe in our company is that CSAT is very transactional. It's what happened today, what happened specifically on this ticket or this response from this ticket, right? So you're measuring your help desk's customer satisfaction, your field engineers' customer satisfaction, maybe even your VCIOs when they go out to give a QBR. The NPS has nothing to do with a specific transaction. I call it a relational survey, and it tells you what the people think, decision maker or non-decision maker, but what the people think of your company, of your brand as a whole. Maybe you have 100% CSAT, and it's entirely possible, and it's happened before, where you're delivering amazing customer service. But maybe there's something in the stack that's really missing, and you're not able to deliver that business value that they expected. Your net promoter score could be low, and they could be a detractor on that side, but have a really high CSAT on the other side. And if you know that information, you could go back and you could dig. What are we missing, right? If you had a magic wand, what would you like to see from us? How can we help? And that will help you maybe build a different technology stack, maybe come out with a different product offering. It could be anything. But with those two pieces, you could uncover it. With just one of those pieces, you couldn't.
Yeah. I think that's another core concept that we live at CloudRadial too, which is, again, having additional data and context into stuff is really important, because, again, we've seen it in our own product as well, right? I'll show in a moment, for those that are waiting attentively, how exactly the integration works too. I'll swap over and I'll kind of talk about how to tie in the key, what it looks like, and we have a bidirectional sync, and that's part of this conversation, which is how can we take something that is, again, if you're looking at the half-baked aspect, is it just piece of data, and make that into a story. And I think the NPS is particularly interesting because it really does tell that story. And again, in a greater sense of customer satisfaction, customer engagement, all these components added together, being shared internally, but also being shared with the customer. Because what I've seen before is that sometimes there is a specific detractor. There's a specific person, maybe you guys have one, right? Maybe multiple people that are just negative, right? No matter what you do, they're always going to mark you bad, or they're always going to kind of come mean world. And these people can kind of poison the waters, and that can show, right? And if you have a way to discuss that and make that visible, that could be something that could really save your bacon when it comes down to talk about it with the customer, going, hey, no matter what we do, Nancy's tickets always go bad, right? What's the deal with there? And being able to audit that and show that and have that kind of be live and available is really great, because, again, it's no longer your word, it's really just proof. The same, unfortunately, but also realistically, is true the other way around, right? If you have one or two positive people and you're not doing a great job, like, being able to rectify that and really fix the relationship is going to be overall more healthy. And I think that is a bigger part of that, again, fully baked CSAT, of making sure that all that stuff kind of comes together. So
you brought up a good point, Ricky. You could have a customer, and you could have 10 people with endpoints giving feedback, but maybe your total endpoints that have opened a ticket are 50, right? You're only getting 20% of the answers. Maybe two of those are giving the most feedback and they're positive, right? You're not getting the full story. And that's the idea of looking at your analytics, seeing what's not being said, try to uncover that.
Yeah, I think, and again, if you can act on that, and that's kind of a lot of the point of why we work together, because, again, those that don't know, CloudRadial has a CSAT built in, but it is juvenile, it's infantile, and it's very much like something that we tell people is like, hey, it's a good start, but really, if you want to get somewhere, if you want to make this actionable and really get a benefit, you need something that has analytics and robustness behind it, which is what we're going to see in a sec too. But for that very reason, right? Because, again, if you're working in a silo, if you're just taking face value for a couple of reviews coming in, you're not getting the full picture. And then, again, you're going to pay for it down the line, I promise you. But a couple of slides here I wanted to kind of cover, because I think they're kind of where you guys are coming from too. So, you guys specifically, right, take that concept pretty big. So you've said this a little bit, but yes, employee recognition. This is kind of that question I asked you before. Even this slide, is this where you're talking about the front end and the, let's call it back end? So employee recognition internally and customer satisfaction, just to clarify, right? This is that, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, we're collecting. We have processes in place to collect lots of customer satisfaction data to help you fix the things that are going wrong, but also to automatically recognize and reward your team for things that are going right. Our mantra in Crewhu is celebrate your small wins daily. You know, every day you should be celebrating something. Something is going right in your business. Yes, there could be things that are going wrong, but there are things that are going right too. Um, and for the most part, and I've been in the MSP space since 2016. I've met a lot of people. I love this channel. I love the ecosystem. The people that work in this channel, for the most part, are really hard workers and they care. I mean, it's a thankless job sometimes, right? Because a lot of people are just getting, problems thrown at them daily. So they genuinely need to want to care, and these people do, and that's why I love working in it, and that's why we totally turned to the MSP space and just focused on it.
Yeah. In fact, again, I'm going to kind of power through some of these slides because I want to talk about how it actually worked. But I think that the core idea behind all this stuff is, again, it's like what you do and how you do it is the secret sauce, which again, that's the superpower here, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. So a lot of people always talk about the tech stack, right? The tech stack can be easily copied. What MSPA could have a tech stack, and MSPB maybe not have the same one, but they could have the same one within a week, from bringing on a couple of different vendors. So it's not the tech stack that differentiates you from the competition out there. It's your team, it's your processes, and your company culture. You focus on those things, even if they have a better tech stack than you will eat their lunch.
well, yeah, because I mean, in the end, it's like that's about that intellectual property and again, how you treat people, and that really differentiates for sure. I mean, same thing we're talking about too, which is just if you can synthesize all that stuff down to like who you are rather than what you sell, you can't be copied. It's unique. It's always going to be unique.
Yeah.
Something else we want to talk about real quick too is poor execution. I think you've got some thoughts on this one too, where it's just hard to get through. I mean, let's be honest, some of this stuff is just like tedious. So what's the secret there, you think?
It's this in this channel, these technical companies, they know how to fix problems. They know how they're experts at what they do. Maybe not necessarily experts at setting up a recognition system or a customer satisfaction system. So they try and go and do it at half-baked, right? And they try to do it the best way they can, because for the most part, the owners, the managers in this business, they understand that it's all about the team. So for the most part, they understand the importance, but the execution is always an issue. And we just make it easier. We understand it. We have best practices. We have automations. So it takes work off of the plates of the managers or the owners, and it's helpful, right? So that's our value that we bring to the table.
Yeah. I agree. I think, again, poor execution is always the cause. We've spent a ton of time and money into revamping a lot of even our implementations, right? Which is a critical part of any piece of software. Like, it doesn't matter whether you're using ConnectWise, Crewhu, CloudRadial, or Adobe Reader, right? Implementing something and making sure that it's actually used just as a piece of software is tough, and understanding, again, realistically what it takes to get in there and make it work. And again, in a piece of software like Crewhu or CloudRadial, where you're actually expecting engagement, requires a two-way street. Like, it's something that you have to adopt internally. It's something you have to discuss with customers, and you have to kind of like almost solicit that feedback and talk about it. And again, same thing for CloudRadial. When we create content, right, those that know CloudRadial, it's not just about being able to create your tickets, create your applications. It's about having that discussion with customers and being like, do you like it? Do you not like it? What can I change? And that is so much more valuable than just going out there and going, here you go, here it is, and whatnot. And that's a big part of what I would consider poor execution as well. Just being finished is not executing. But
yeah,
this one I also wanted to talk about, because I think this is the most important slide that I see as far as what makes you guys different, where it's not just, again, capture the feedback, right? This is kind of like your playbook, your finish line of like where you're going, I think. And is this something that you had originally designed or you came up with, or how does this work?
Well, no, it's not what I originally designed for
Yeah, it'd
the
be pretty
retail
mature if you
space.
just immediately knew, but
Yeah, no, one thing is for certain, whatever you start with, when you start a company, that's not what you end with, especially with a software company. From 2013 to 2016, we were working on product market fit, right? When we finally got into the MSP space, that's when we started to really hone in on what is important to the MSP, right? And we realized, CSAT was very important to them. But it's also getting the team focused on the right metric. So we spoke a lot about collecting customer feedback. We do it very well. We have the notifications you need. We have the analytics you need. We could even recognize and reward off of any single survey that you get with us or with CloudRadial now with our integration. But gamifying your metrics, it's getting your team to focus on the metrics that matter for your business, whether it's documentation. We've heard time and time again that documenting is a big problem, and that's why we integrated with IT Glue, and we have an integration with Crewhu as well, and we get them to focus on these metrics and create new habits and new behaviors. Recognizing the team, celebrating the wins daily. We do that with the customer feedback, but we also empower the team at the MSP to recognize each other on their core values, to keep that culture alive on a daily basis. You could have core values, and you could say you have them, you could say you live them, but that doesn't mean you do. Are you talking about them daily? Can all of your employees recite your 5 or 6 core values that you have written on your wall, right? Do they actually live them? Core values and culture is not aspirational, right? Goals are aspirational. Core values are who you are today. And if you're not living them, they're really not your core values. And having a system like ours in place to reinforce that, it's really important. And rewarding for a job well done. So we have a store where employees can actually get points. We call them Crew Coin. They're a little less expensive than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going up, by the way.
Crypto? Bitcoin's crypto? I know. I feel like it is.
Starting our own cryptocurrency.
Right.
But what they can do with the cryptocurrency, our cryptocurrency, is they could go to our store, get meaningful rewards. And what we say here is that know your employees, know your team, know what they like, know what they desire, and make it personal so they know that you care about them. It's really important. I always give this example about Ryan Denning, our VP of sales, and he loves to scuba dive, right? And he likes to ride his Harley. And he always says to me, well, if it was just me in the company, there'd just be Harley stuff and scuba diving stuff, right? So you want to make it personal to that employee. Make sure there's something in there for them. And improve your online rep. This is where it gets really important. I talked about the tech stack earlier. And if someone's looking for an MSP, if someone's not happy with their current MSP or they don't have one yet, they're not gonna go just call you. They're gonna go online. They're probably gonna look at the Google review page because it's a location-based business, and that's where people go. And they're gonna look to see who has the most Google reviews. They're going to look to see who has the most current Google reviews. And then they'll start their search. Then you may hear from them if you're in the top of the listing, right? Or if you come up in some organic search somehow, which these reviews will help with. So that's how you get to the table. And then you get to differentiate yourself from there. But think about how many opportunities you missed because you weren't even invited to the table. So we have a process that helps you get a lot more Google reviews, tried and true. And I have some examples later in the presentation to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that stuff's critical. And we're getting close to the point. Actually, I'll do it right now. We're going to talk about a little bit of the technicalities, right? I know some people are here to make sure and understand how it works and really what we're talking about when we say the integration. So throw the slide up real quick. And I think that this is coming from Crewhu. Again, I'll speak to this because obviously CloudRadial is essentially an integration hub at this point, right? So we understand the concept here. The more this stuff speaks to itself and in each other, the better, right? So now if you can have these systems talking in that cohesiveness of customer experience really starts to come together. And the more you can do that, not only is it easier to manage, but again, the happier your clients can be, I think. So let me go off script, right? Let's break off from the PowerPoint and let's talk about a little bit of technicality of what really is happening here. So you should be able to see my Crewhu. Stephen, you're the only one with a voice. You can see that, okay?
Hopefully. I can see it. Yes, Ricky.
Let's talk about it. So I actually have, I'm going to start in CloudRadial. I'm going to start with one of my test companies. I have Cam's Construction here. So this is a CloudRadial tenant. I'm going to ultra-wide. This is going to be super big. So let me zoom in pretty good. And I want to talk about how, again, the purpose of setting it up, how to set it up. Now, traditionally, we're going to start in CloudRadial because what we're going to do is we're going to generate an API key. So this two-way sync, what it really does is you've got CloudRadial getting the feedback into it from Crewhu via API. So if they log stuff in from Crewhu, right, from the email templates inside, it'll log its way in there. And then out of CloudRadial, if they log feedback within CloudRadial, it'll get into Crewhu via a webhook. And I'll show you how that process works and how that loop works. So first and foremost, what you want to do is you want to go to partner. We're going to go down to settings. It's very easy. It's really not too bad. We're going to head over to our integrations. Unlike a lot of the other integrations that we have with other tools, there's a certain aspect of like generating and authenticating. This is very, very easy. We're going to get to our API section over here. We're going to go ahead and generate a key. Ta-da. Call it whatever we want. Test. Obviously, we're going to call it Crewhu, and I already got mine right here. So when I generate that, it'll give me a public and private. Terrific. When we go back into Crewhu, what we're going to do is we're going to keep that key with us. We're going to go to our general settings over here. I'll zoom in, make sure we can actually see my stuff. And then we're going to go to our integrations. Now, it should be pretty easy because all we're going to do is we're going to add that integration. And you're going to see that there's two options. And we're going to go for my CloudRadial. I'm already connected to ConnectWise in mine, but your mileage may vary. And that's it, right? Plug in the key and call it a day. When you do that, you're going to get back that webhook. So that'll make sure, again, step one, Crewhu goes in. Step two, CloudRadial comes out. So in my case, I've already got mine on my cam test one. Here you go. And there's my webhook. So as soon as you grab that webhook, we're good to go. That's it. I mean, like the integration is pretty much ready to fire. So when I go back inside of CloudRadial, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to go to my feedback. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So we hypocritically do a half-baked feedback because, again, there's some level of expectation that a client might have. And if you're just starting out, I'm talking like one-man shop, don't know where to start, probably adequate. But if you really want to get into something meaningful that means something that you can build off of, you should probably start looking into something like Crewhu because I think that that's going to make a world of difference for you. So partner feedback is our section. Now, this is our, again, very, very basic version of it, right? You can see the feedback that you've captured from various people. You can see the company scores. You can see the agent scores down to the individual person. Specifically, what we're after right now is this settings option up here. So when we get that, you're going to see that we have a very basic version of these email templates that you can put in as well. But again, ours literally just capture the CSAT. So what we're going to do to make it a little bit beefier is we're going to edit it. And then inside here, we're going to enable the feedback. And then what we're going to do is you have a bunch of different options, whether you want to post feedback back to the original ticket. Now, keep in mind, those that are familiar with Crewhu has all this functionality and more. So you probably don't want to do much of this inside of CloudRadial. You probably don't want to leave that to Crewhu. But if you wanted to do it, you might get double alerts here and there. So it might be worth tweaking. I have mine sending alert on every feedback to me personally. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put that webhook that I got back in here. That's it. Integration done. So what's ultimately going to happen, and I'll show you what it looks like from the CloudRadial side, is that when somebody like this very real user, Cameron of Cam's Construction, goes and submits a ticket, right? Again, that concept of the fully baked, not just half-baked integration is that they can go in there and they can submit a ticket, right? Cool, directly from the portal. When they do that, even if it's from the portal or not, they can see their support tickets in this area because this is pulling from the PSA. So once I got that stuff pulling in, right, this is me pretending I am the actual genuine user. I click on them, and guess what? I'm going to see the timeline. I'm going to see kind of like an iPhone chat log. Now, here's the CSAT. So this is CloudRadial CSAT. This is not Crewhu, but again, it's going to be a two-way sync. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my feedback. So my very basic feedback here is I'm going to be, I am happy. Cool. So I'm going to get the option to submit it. Cool. I'm going to put a couple comments. I'm going to go, hey, great job. Excellent. I can do contact and whatnot. And then what's going to happen is the moment I hit submit, my feedback has been logged. So what's happening right now, again, technical nerds rejoice, is that CloudRadial is taking this feedback, it's storing it, and we are going to send this information over to Crewhu, and you're going to see that back in here. So this has been done inside of CloudRadial. There is a section, right? If we go back to that partner feedback, you're going to see that being logged here. Hey, great job. We just did that one. Inside of Crewhu, what you're going to see is that it'll come back up under your CSAT. So we'll give it a minute. I've done a couple already. I've made sure it worked, right? This is brand new, so I was given my own tests. And it comes in just like any of your other CSATs would from Crewhu. Again, same thing would happen. If you were to do this from the Crewhu side, I can't show that one, unfortunately, because it requires me to use my sandbox in CloudRadial, and ConnectWise, it's the whole thing. Exact same thing, right? Your feedback that you do here is going to reappear in CloudRadial. Why this is important is, again, for you guys managing this CSAT, you can manage it out of one system, right? CloudRadial may be feeding Crewhu, but you really want to manage your feedback inside of Crewhu because that's the best way to do it. Similarly, right, for the customer part, the customers now no longer have to either get a report or go to two areas because the feedback is coming both internally from CloudRadial and from Crewhu into one spot. What that means is that if you want to have those bigger conversations about not just, again, CSAT, but NPS or higher level, like what this means, the data that we aggregate from the CSAT section. So for example, under partner and dashboards, we have a dashboard for feedback, right? Because Crewhu is intermixed in there, you have an accurate one. It's not just based on the CloudRadial one, which means that, again, something that would have been siloed to a line of good or bad now becomes a tangible conversation going like, well, we submitted one ticket. Well, there's 10 tickets, and you can have that realistic conversation going, okay, is this an issue? Is that one person an issue? Who's leaving that feedback and having that tracked in? And the benefit here, again, is that you're seeing this, the customer is seeing this, right, optionally within their portal. So again, it's easier for the people to access. It's not too bad. They get in there, they see it, they have that conversation. And ultimately you can come down to like the planner, which again, for lack of demo's sake, is going to give them the ability to make actionable plans out of that, right? So it's like, are you getting bad CSAT because it's your fault or because it's a trouble person, right? Let's talk about that. Let's figure out how that can get fixed. I see a couple of QA questions here. Let me see if I can answer some of that. This one's for you, Stephen. I see that Chip is asking, does Crewhu have ESAT capabilities? I'm not sure if I know what ESAT is. Do you know what that one is?
Yeah, ESAT is employee satisfaction. So you're sending employees surveys directly. The short answer is no. We don't focus on the employee what they think. We have analytics where you could sort of see the engagement of the team. Everything in Crewhu is transparent. These anonymized surveys sometimes could be unhealthy to culture, so we decided to keep it totally transparent, and we gauge that through their engagement with the core value badges, the CSAT with the customers, and we actually have a score within our system that our team could talk more in detail about with you.
Yeah. Also, we're going to answer a couple other questions in there too. I wanted to show it's come through, so I'm going to share this. I should think it'll be able to see. So I just got an email from Crewhu letting me know they completed. So the ticket was received, right? So you can see that the bidirectional sync worked just fine. We know the ticket number. Now I'm going to say unknown because this would ordinarily be the person assigned to the ticket. Again, I have a sandbox. It's a vendor problem. Don't worry about that. But in general, it's like I have that closed loop thing. So even though, again, it was completely originated from CloudRadial, it didn't have anything to do with Crewhu. Crewhu picked it up, logged it, and you'll see it in here. So when I refresh this page, I'm pretty confident we'll see that third review pop up here. And sure enough, right, and I have the issue linked. So this is the benefit of hooking up all three systems, your PSA, your Crewhu, your CloudRadial. Now all of that is kind of in a closed loop system, and it's easy to track and see. Again, this was Cameron's construction. It was Cameron that did it, and we can see the details to it.
And Ricky, the reason why I was excited to really partner with you guys is you give the MSP's customer visibility while they could still go in and take a look at the analytics in Crewhu, and also engage their team and focus them on the metrics. It's an amazing solution. And besides the day-to-day access for the end user, you could also send weekly, monthly, or quarterly reports from Crewhu to the customer with all the the CSAT score, the CSAT percent, all these other analytics that will complete the solution for you.
Yeah, and I want to answer another question that's really good, and we actually have a solution for that. I believe Crewhu does as well. I'm gonna perhaps defer to Stephen, but I think I can answer it. So Jeff Downing is asking, he's using Crewhu in ConnectWise. Cool. What's the benefit or difference to moving that to CloudRadial? Really, it's all three, right? So what you're doing in ConnectWise, I would assume, is you're taking your ConnectWise template and you have the Crewhu, the HTML plugged in there, so you get the smileys. But specifically, your question after that is really what I'm after, where customers complain about not seeing the smiley faces. That happened a lot, right? Because what Outlook typically does is it blocks the images, and that image blocking causes a lot of people to get skeeved out, because what they see is click here to download, and like you'll show a missing blank thing. So in Crewhu, I'm going to take a step extra to say this. When you go down to your surveys, right? Let's say your CSAT, there's a section to customize how you want your faces to come through. Now, again, what you can do is you can also have HTML faces. I want to say that's somewhere down here. I may not find it exactly, but the HTML thing is the trick. If not, again, you might want to do the CloudRadial one. Again, ultimately, it'll do the same thing. So remember, whether you're doing it from CloudRadial or not, it'll be the same effect. Again, I'm pretty sure they have this in here. Again, you're going to
So we have faces, which is HTML, and then we have a text option where you'll be able to bypass that.
Do you know where that is?
And correct that. And actually, if you're a Crewhu customer, you have a dedicated account manager, and we actually have calls. They have calls with how to solve any issue, but also improve conversion on the surveys. So if you don't know your account manager, you can reach out to support@crewhu.com. That could get you to the right person.
Yeah, it's a great question, because again, I remember that came up a lot for us too. And again, even in our basic system, that's why when you go to CloudRadial's one as well, which again, really, we're not really saying, realistically, I'm telling you, as somebody who works at CloudRadial, probably want to use Crewhu's, because again, it'll give you richer data, but ultimately, because now they're talking back and forth, you'll get the data properly. That's why when you look at our feedback system, we don't just have this one, we have this one. This is what Steven's talking about. Again, same thing, right? It does the exact same thing. The reason that this works better is because these are the, they're HTML, they're not images technically, so they load every time. So there's not that download button, which doesn't skeeve people out, but they do exactly the same. So make sure you talk to your account manager, get that set up, and they'll help you improve it. But great question, again, something that's happens all the time. John is asking for Autotask, right? Does this sync to Autotask customer satisfaction system? Does Crewhu sync the CSAT feedback back to Autotask? Stephen, do you know that one?
Yes, we do.
There we go. That's an easy peasy one.
We believe, we know in this space, there's so many applications out there, and we try to limit or share the information with where it needs to be. So if you use CloudRadial, it's nice to have the information there and in Crewhu. Also with your PSA, it's nice to have all the information in your PSA, as well as in Crewhu. We know that a lot of you guys live in MS Teams, so we made sure that we are sending all the notifications over to MS Teams, so you don't have to jump back and forth into different applications, and you could use the ones that give you the most value.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's, again, it's like, I wish I could show it. I know that you guys are probably like, where's the other half? The other half works exactly the same. So again, if you have that API connection and you have it hooked in, your feedback from Crewhu that you gather, again, like what Jeff was asking, if you already have your Crewhu feedback in your ConnectWise templates, you don't have to change a thing. That'll go directly into CloudRadial. It'll show up. There may be a timing thing because typically with APIs, for those that aren't familiar, they usually do them in batches and it takes a couple of minutes. That's why even when we did this webinar, I did it knowing that it would take a few seconds or a few minutes to fire off. But hey, not too bad, right? In a couple of minutes, you're able to get that feedback and sync it all through. We can live with that. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to take us back to the PowerPoint because something I want to drive back to, and I think, Stephen, this is important for us together, is also where this takes us as far as results. So it's one thing to say, here's the technicality, here's what half-baked means, what doesn't mean, but like, what are people actually seeing? And we have quite a few really interesting cases that you brought to the table. And let's talk a little bit about some of these guys. So $500,000 gain, that's pretty sweet. What's going on here? Have you seen stuff?
Well, this is the core of it. This MSP, Myris happened to have had a employee turnover and also a customer churn issue. So we were able to lower the employee turnover from 35% to 12%, and the client annual churn from 8% to 3%. That turned out to be $500,000 in additional revenue, and it was simply by putting into place the Crewhu surveys and by creating contests in help desk departments.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, same thing. I've seen a lot of the same stuff. Again, when we talk about improving customer satisfaction, I love this because, again, it's not just about getting new clients or selling more services. That internal churn and reducing that is huge. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard it. I don't have stats pre-prepared. I'm not going to give you anything you can quote me on, but I know for a fact that we all know the pain of having to train new employees. Churn sucks. Churn is one of those things that is just super, super, super bad. Again, especially in terms of customer, if you have, let's say you have a killer technician that's doing those tickets and you have one that's not so great, and maybe the killer one's doing all the work and the other ones aren't, and it's starting to get really heavy on them. If you don't recognize them, if you don't fix that issue, you might lose some of your best employees, and that hurts even more, right? So it may not even be necessarily revenue related, but like certainly giving that credit where credit's due and making that gamification possible is a huge part of that, right? It's a huge part of retaining, and it's a huge part of keeping that money in your pocket or getting more. So I love that too. Another one here, I think this is a pretty great one too. So another $500,000 guy with
referral. And this is very recent, and Brent uses our CSAT and MPS, so Net Promoter Score and customer satisfaction processes together. With that, he was able to uncover referrals, and he was able to bring in 2 deals within 5 months, equaling $41,000 in MRR. So a huge ROI for Brent here.
Is this, and I'll go a step further and ask, you said earlier that like that question of like service speed and, being able to kind of showcase that you have good customer service. Is that really the crux of it here? I mean, being able to say like, hey, we have this visible, I can show you. Does that become part of the prospecting for new clients?
Yeah, and there's another example for that. Here is actually getting someone who's really happy with the service and referring another customer to them. And this is how a lot of these MSPs grow well. They're very successful at referral marketing. We helped sort of put it on steroids.
And I was saying, like, as I said that, I looked at the preview for the next slide. I go, oh, it was the next slide. It was literally this one where it's like talking about how you build it into the sales presentation. I think this is what.
Yeah. So Neil did this, and we're able, with our analytics, our survey, we're able to understand, well, what's going right and what's going wrong, what's not being said, right? And you could have a 98% CSAT, but you could see that resolution time is amazing. You could see that the helpfulness, the customer service of your team is amazing, but then you could see response time may not be, just because people aren't mentioning it at all. And using our analytics, you could see that. And even though you have a really high CSAT, you'll uncover that we really need to work on response time because we could be at risk of losing a customer because of it. Neil Jern is the person that will go and show these analytics and say, look how we do on response time. We're amazing. Are you having trouble with response time? And if they say yes, well, then there's something for them to talk about. And Neil has closed 12 deals doing this. and showcasing us in their proposals.
That's awesome. Yeah, again, it's like same page there for us as well. Again, that concept of bringing forth the client satisfaction, showing people, right? We're very much against the trust-based approach. And that really just what that means is saying that like, we're going to do a good job, trust us. Nope, I don't like that, right? I don't want to see that. If you come to the table with proof, again, CloudRadial's version of that is, I'm going to show you what it looks like to work with us. I'm going to show you the space you get. I'm going to show you how you are going to get to see and interact with all your stuff. Crewhu stuff is the same thing here, right? We're not saying theoretically we're the best. Believe it, right? It's like, no, I literally have, here's the, you bring reviews to the table, you bring understanding. And again, if you can identify that and peel back some of those issues, you got a great in. And I think that's perfect proof. We got, I think, 2 more of these to talk through. This one's pretty awesome. Again, 45% growth year over year is nuts.
Yeah. So, and this is great because this was without bringing on a single new employee. And they did this by focusing on a metric, the documentation score, which we bring in with an integration to gamify, to focus their team on the right metric. They were able to increase their CSAT to 99% because now they were decreasing the resolution time because everything was being documented. More people, they were able to bring on more customers without bringing on more high-level tech support. Everything went down to the bottom line, so they're super happy.
Awesome. And then so this is another one that you touched on a little bit before, where it's not Crewhu, but it's Google reviews. So it's just reviews in general, I think.
Well, they use the process within Crewhu to double their Google reviews and increase their rating from a 4.8 to a 4.9. So they're able to double their Google reviews, show everybody in the market recent Google reviews. And David mentioned specifically that every single one of his new customers came to him because of their research from the internet and from Google. David actually, I forgot what show it was. I think it was a Robin show. But David came up to Ryan Denning, our VP of sales, and gave him a big bear hug for what we've helped him with. So he's super happy.
We could probably do another webinar just on that in general. I used to work in marketing. I spent a long time and like talking about just the sheer benefit that you get SEO wise, right? Search engine optimization wise, and just like ratings wise and modern customers, right? It doesn't matter whether it's a restaurant, an MSP, or a lawyer, like whatever. It's like we tend to gravitate towards those that have a reputation, and then obviously good reputation, like you said earlier, you kind of get that pool up. So it's one of those things that like it transcends just talking about whether it's inside of a portal or inside of a piece of software. Again, this is genuinely your reputation. If you bring that to the table, that can do a lot of good for sure.
It's important.
Yeah.
And
so
I know we've been here for a while, so this is just an ROI wrap up, right? 500,000K gain in one example, 492,000 in ARR in another, 12 new clients in another. If you do any of those, your ROI is going to be through the roof. You could check us out. I think it's called the Channel Program. There's tons of reviews on our platform. So it's not about what we're saying. We focus on MSPs, so everybody's just like you. Look to see what they're saying about our platform and what it's done to their business. We have a promotion for anybody that's connected with the CloudRadial webinar or through the integration. You'll be able to sign up for free, but you'll also get 20% off your first year and $100 credit towards the prize store that you could use to reward and motivate your guys. Just go to crewhu.com/CloudRadial. Sign up for the free trial. You'll also get a complimentary white glove onboarding. It's 3 different half an hour onboarding sessions that will teach you everything you need to know about the processes.
That's killer. Yeah. Please, if you're watching this, whether now or in the future, take advantage of that. That's insane. And also, yeah, I mean, we covered it on the webinar, obviously for the sake of simplicity. Last note for me is if you're looking for again, written instructions, want more details on how to integrate and any specific technical details, check out radials.io/integrate Crewhu. And actually, realistically, if you even Google Crewhu CloudRadial, you'll see that we have pretty much the same article on both sites. So easy to find those instructions, and you'll get that stuff set up, no problem. Great. I think let's see, just in time. We got just skirted that hour, but we answered some questions. If there's anything else, please feel free to ask. I don't think there is for right now, though. But Stephen, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And yeah.
All right. Great hanging out with you, Ricky.
I'll see you at the next show. So I'm sure we'll run into each other too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
Thanks,
Take care,
everybody.
all.
Take it easy.